Hi again everyone, my name's Steve and this is Little Plastic People, and today's video is going to be a bit different as I've been lucky enough to have the last couple of weeks full of wargaming escapades and events. From amazing painting competitions to packed full events and laughter filled game nights to even a 2-day tournament that almost melted my brain. So I thought I'd take stock and share my thoughts with you lucky folks. So hang around and we'll see where this nerdy adventure goes. First off, even if we are all often connected to other hobbyists through the mystical tendrils of the interwebs, I suppose we should recognise that the hobby can sometimes be quite a solitary quest, as a lot of what we do, particularly if you're more painting focused, is often done alone, huddled away in our hobby bunkers, brush in hand, surrounded by unpainted miniatures and paint fumes, which, at least in my experience, isn't exactly a boon for mental well-being. Or physical for that matter, making me feel extra lucky to count myself among those fortunate enough to have found themselves in a group of like-minded enthusiasts. Yes, I'm talking about my fantastic group of friends who share my passion for all things miniature. However, this hasn't always been this way, and it's very much a recent occurrence, which has changed the way that I hobby forever. This has all very much informed what it is that I'm trying to get across in this video, which is essentially that I think it's a very worthwhile endeavour to go to these events and interact with other hobbyists in person. At least, it is for me. And to give those who maybe haven't taken the plunge into the event dungeons just yet an idea of what to expect, including both some of the pros and some of the cons, but which on balance will hopefully convince you to share your hobby with some new people out there in the world. Like I mentioned in the intro, I've been lucky enough to have a couple of weeks stacked full of wargaming shenanigans, but have also, work and home life permitting, been attending hobby events relatively regularly for the last few years now. Pretty sure my wife is quite happy to be rid of me for the extra couple of days a year, which does explain her enthusiasm, but lack of participation past any given game night. The first event to mention is Salute, if only because it's a large convention that I've been to recently, and it's been a staple on my hobby calendar for a long time now. This year was one of the busiest and most vibrant I've seen, with the halls of the London Excel filled with a sea of smiling faces, all revelling in the joy of our shared passion. Not to forget the rows and rows of vendor stands, packed full of things to do and see and, inevitably, purchase. Some key selling points of Salute, for newcomers in particular, are that it's a single day event, although there's probably enough to be spread over two. It's not way too big, or way too busy, like the behemoth that is the UK Games Expo. And although it's very much focused on wargaming, it does cater for everything mini related, and isn't just restricted to Warhammer, unlike the infamous and now apparently elusive Warhammer Fest. So in true YouTuber fashion, we're going to go over a section that has the pros and the cons of events like these. Meeting new people from outside your established circle can often be intimidating, particularly if you've just spent the last 2 months painting up an army locked away in your hobby bunker and have forgotten that other humans exist, let alone how to interact with them. However, the benefits far outweigh those initial jitters. Amongst so much more, rubbing shoulders with fellow wargamers, industry veterans and hobby heroes not only broadens horizons, but also deepens appreciation for the incredible hobby and the individuals within it. It's a chance to learn, grow, forge meaningful connections and potentially new allies. But like with anything, you might find that you bump into that person, or just somebody that you don't particularly get on with. But don't worry and fear not, you can both just go your separate ways. There's plenty more people at these events, and I can assure you the overwhelming majority are awesome humans. Which, as you're still here, I can only assume you are too. But do bear in mind that there are going to be a lot of people at these events. I mean, picture this. A bustling hall teeming with over 6,000 eager souls at Salute, and a whopping 30,000 strong crowd at the UK Games Expo. It's a sight to behold, no doubt, but it can be a tad overwhelming, especially for those of us that are the introverted types. So don't be afraid to take a break, grab some food in a quiet corner and recharge those social batteries. Trust me, there's plenty to see and do, and you'll want to be firing on all cylinders, particularly as you'll need that energy to restrain yourself from adding to your pile of opportunity. Which brings us on, swiftly, to costs and logistics. I think I'm getting okay at this segueing thing now. Sure, event tickets won't break the bank, but Factor in travel and accommodation and things can start to add up. Luckily, venues like the London Excel, home to Salute, are well connected and offer decent lodging options. Personally, I'm just a stone's throw away from the Excel by car, so it's a breeze for me. But hey, I have also had my fair share of adventures navigating distant cities for a multi-day event on a busy bank holiday weekend when the local Premiership football team is also hosting a game. But that's enough about logistics, let's talk about treasure hunting. These events are a goldmine for finding hobby products and companies that you might never have stumbled across before. Just maybe limit yourself a little so that you don't get too carried away. There's only so much opportunity a pile of plastic needs, apparently. So let's circle back to the main event, the people. And this is where I'm going to reiterate, and probably not for the last time, that these events are the absolute best place to meet new friends and catch up with old ones. Meeting people that you've spent time talking to online at big events is pretty much the perfect location, and going for some after event refreshment is often the highlight of my adventures away from the studio. Name drop incoming. I've been fortunate enough to attend a few events with my good friends Guy, Hattie and Ant, which is always entertaining when we're together. But in addition to these awesome humans, I was lucky enough to catch up with a painter friend of mine, Mamicon, purveyor of delicious donuts at Warhammer Fest last year, Hellstorm Mikey and his lovely partner, along with meeting and spending time with Alex from 52 Miniatures, one of the most talented content creators and genuinely lovely people that I've had the pleasure of chatting to. Not to forget bumping into such hobby heroes as Peachy, amongst so many more awesome people. You know who you are, and thank you so much for taking the time to come up and chat. It's folks like you that make these events so special. Now we've got the shows and conventions out of the way, and most of the sycophancy, let's get on and have a look at the sometimes dreaded and often nerve-biting world of painting competitions. A realm where the brush-wielding elite gather to showcase their skills and vie for glory. But you might actually be surprised, as I think that this is an often misunderstood conception of our beloved pastime. Now I do say dreaded, as quite a few people that I speak to are intimidated by the standard of painting demonstrated at some of the more renowned competitions like Golden Demon or even Salute. I totally get it. When you have the pinnacle of the heavy metal painting standard, Mr. Darren Latham, rocking up next to painting giants like Andy Wardle, it's quite difficult not to get a tad intimidated. But here's the thing, painting competitions aren't just about winning trophies, though that's certainly a nice bonus. They're about celebrating your passion for the craft and sharing your creations with the community. So go and enter something you're proud of, just to see it in the cabinets. Let go of the notion that you need to be on par with the heavy metal team to enter. That kind of comparison is the theft of joy. Embrace the journey of your own hobby evolution and revel in the joy of seeing your own work on display alongside all of the others. And hey, don't be afraid to start up conversations with your fellow painters while walking the cabinets. You'd be amazed how much you can learn from a little friendly critique. I can't tell you how good it is to have another painter come over to you and say, "So, what have you got in the cabinets today?" And you head over there for a little inspection and discuss. Although it may seem like an elitist club, and I'm sure there are a few people that do treat it that way, painting competitions and sharing your hobby through them is for everyone that wants to be involved. Open style competitions are particularly great for those daring to enter for the first time, as they often have a more generic, novice, journeyman and master category, with many more entrants receiving an award based on their skill level in that specific category. And remember, the true beauty of these events lies in the inspiration that they provide and the opportunity they offer to push your own boundaries. Knowing I can paint to a high standard and actually applying myself to do so are two very different things. And really pushing your skill threshold can be some of the most impactful learning you can get. But the trick is not to get too emotionally invested in any given project. This, along with staying humble, is obviously a lot easier said than done. Don't let the pressure of winning dampen your spirits. Painting should be about enjoyment, not anxiety. So stay humble, keep practicing, and above all, have fun. After all, isn't that why we pick up the brush in the first place? Personally, I've learned to paint and create because I love it, not specifically for competition. If something is ready in time and I'm happy enough to share, it might get entered. If not, maybe next time, or maybe not. One last thing before we leave painting competitions and showcases behind, and this one could be slightly controversial, and this is the decision from Salute 51 to not include bronze and only award gold and silver at their event. And this doesn't quite sit right with me. Although it was great to see such an awesome turnout and gorp over all of those minis in the cabinets, I think most would agree it would have been even nicer still to have seen more painters receive the validation that they deserve. But hey, maybe next year we'll see the bronze return. I certainly hope so. Definitely not salty because I didn't win anything. Next up is the often more dreaded competitive play scene, specifically Warhammer 40,000, a realm where strategy reigns supreme and every move can mean the difference between victory and defeat. Now, before I delve too deeply into this topic, I want to make one thing crystal clear. I am not a competitive 40k player. I've only played in 2 tournaments, the biggest one being a 51 player event, at which I placed 50th. But I'm not here to talk about tactics and the nuance of a meta list, as I wouldn't know where to start. I'm just here to share my experience as a tourist in the scene, so save the berating for later. You see, despite my lackluster performance on the tabletop, these games have been some of the best and most informative that I've ever had. Take, for example, the recent Hellstorm Wargaming event I attended. Every person I encountered was an absolute gem. Friendly, inviting, helpful and supportive. It was a far cry from the horror stories you sometimes hear about competitive gaming. Although I'm sure that bad interactions do happen, and I've even had a couple myself here and there in the occasional pickup game, just remembering that we're all pushing around war dollies for fun does take the edge off of any feel-bads, and it gives you some perspective. Sure, there are also cons to consider, and like with any other event, travel, accommodation, and the time investment required to prepare are all things that need to be thought of. Even if you've never considered dipping your toes into the competitive scene before, I highly recommend giving it a shot, particularly at a local event, if only to experience it just for the once. Just be prepared for the mental gymnastics of playing multiple games in one day. Trust me, it can get a bit brain melty, at least it is for me. So go prepared, get some sleep, drink some water, make sure you read the organiser's event pack, and clear up any questions well ahead of time. P.S. I didn't read the pack. Now, if like me, you're not exactly a seasoned player, don't fret about picking up the wooden spoon. Instead, why not just go with the mindset of gaining some more experience, making some more friends, and gathering some tales to share with other hobbyists. That, in itself, is prize enough. Even so, you might end up walking away with an award anyway. As many tournaments, like the Hellstorm events, recognise achievements beyond just placing in the top ranks. Best painted armies and best opponents are often celebrated, voted on by all the participants. So even if you narrowly avoid the dreaded wooden spoon like I did, there's still a chance for some recognition. I myself only just dodged the wooden spoon, but I did still manage to sneak away with best painted. But even that was a close one, as there were some really great armies to play against and to gorp over. Right, we've touched on shows, conventions, competitions and tournaments, but there's one more thing that I want to look at before we round things up, and that's the importance of regular gaming groups. Although not necessarily an event in this exact context, I found having a regular gaming group has been a huge positive influence on my mental well-being and a driving force behind my motivation and enjoyment of the hobby. These gatherings aren't just about rolling dice and moving miniatures, they're about forging bonds, nurturing friendships, and taking a break from everyday life. I can't overstate enough the benefits of regularly meeting up with a few friends to relax, play games, discuss stuff that isn't just hobby oriented, and generally practice at being a sociable human. So if the opportunity presents itself, I definitely recommend making arrangements for a regular meetup. Whether it's a weekly game night or a monthly gathering, finding a consistent rhythm can be incredibly rewarding. I'm lucky enough that our game nights happen pretty much every week, but I know this isn't feasible for a lot of people. And if a regular meetup isn't feasible, don't hesitate to seek out pickup games at your local gaming store or club. Sometimes you just have to seize the opportunity for yourself. Right, well, I think that's it. We've come to the end of this hobby journey. And if you're still here, I'm betting you've guessed a common thread running through this whole video. And that thread is people and community engagement. Sure, it might feel a bit daunting to step out from behind our keyboards, but trust me when I say that the rewards are well worth it. Venturing outside your comfort zone, meeting new people, and embracing new experiences not only enriches hobby life, but also broadens perspectives and understandings of the world in general. And in a hobby so potentially vibrant and diverse as ours, that can only be a good thing, right? But with that said, it's not always smiles and handshakes. Of course, it would be remiss of me if I didn't acknowledge that occasionally you might encounter a less than friendly individual. But hey, to be blunt, sometimes people are just dicks. Let them be dicks by themselves. Don't let a sour encounter sour your love for the hobby. Move on, seek out the positive voices, and remember that there are plenty of amazing folks out there just waiting to share in the joy of gaming with you. From the thrill of meeting new people to the slight apprehension of stepping out of your comfort zones, hobby events offer a buffet of experiences just waiting to be savoured. I hope this video has convinced some of you to go out there, touch some grass and attend some events. And maybe I'll see you at the next one. But anyways, Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, bye!
Let's get naked.
Let's get nutty.
Like we could see you on the thing.